Hey everybody, I hope you guys are doing well today. Um, today should be really cool. We're going to cover how to use XD, Adobe XD, and how to kind of design apps that you would use a vector program. You probably have heard of terms like Sketch, Figma, XD. We'll talk a little bit about the different platforms and we'll do a short tutorial on how to use those today. So let's kind of dig into it and I will open up. Okay, so let me share this. So the first part is research first. That's super critical in general. And with becoming a user experience designer or any designer in particular, is the more research that you put into things, the more focused you are on what the end result's going to be or what the design should look like, is going to save you a ton of time and circumvent a lot of potential technical experience that you might have needed before. So when we talk about research, it's really not necessarily about natural ability. It's more about looking into who are the people in the space, what are the common styles or design trends that are going on, and how are you going to be able to accommodate your client the best you can. So created this itemized list right here. And with it's a little bit of a research guide. Now, you could probably add a lot of stuff to it at the same time. You might want to remove stuff from it sometimes as well, but it's kind of a good guide to look through and judge the things that you're looking at and put yourself in the right frame set for the design that you want to create. So use Inspector and Chrome to understand the asset details. So when you are using Chrome, which I'm currently using here, there's a whole bunch of tools that you could use that you can download. For example, there's Colorzilla, where it'll allow you to go and look at a page and analyze what color the page is. It picked up white there in the middle, but you can find all the different colors of the page. You can download a font inspector as well to check the different fonts on pages. You can also go into Chrome, and let me share my full screen for this. You could go into Chrome and you could go to View and then Developer Tools. And over here, you can go in and you can inspect elements. I'm looking at a spreadsheet right now. Let's go to a website to check out something. So today we're going to create like a controller app, just something super simple. So let's look at Game Boy website. So there's old school Game Boys. Here's Nintendo Game Boy website, right? So looking at this website, and then I can open up View Developer Tools. And with that, I can start breaking down what's going on the page. I can look at different elements and I could assess them on a deeper level. For example, so that's an image. I could go over here and I can understand what fonts they're using, what size fonts, margin, padding, things along those lines, the colors, and the different stylistic assets of the page. So that's one. Those are some different tools that you could leverage, and there's a whole lot more too. You could look into different tools for design that you could leverage. And I think down here, I put additional research. And if you click on this link here, it's kind of a UX resource list. So it talks about Figma, talks about Adobe XD, Sketch, different presentation options like Marvel or Envision, different templates where you can find stuff, add-ons and plugins and things along those nature. So This is also open to have other people add stuff to the list as well. You could see here, there's a tab for research and inspiration that you could put in some of the research or inspiration that you have. Here's tutorials on different topics and things like that. So feel free to add to this list as well as you find stuff that kind of help you with the research phase in order to kind of plow through the topic that you're looking for and truly understand it from all the different angles so that you can get to designing it as fast as possible. So let's go back to that itemized list. So use a ruler. You could calculate asset sizes. What icon library will you use? So you could look at different icon libraries that are out there, different asset libraries. We'll look at a few today that just come with XD and also are given by the major companies like Apple, Google, and Adobe. So that gives you a huge head start actually to get started with this and using their platform and their style structure, and then embedding content inside of that actually makes your life a lot easier. To create document, I recommend using Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel as well, because you're going to be passing this design off to somebody else. So creating a really itemized list, really detailed, focused on what you're trying to accomplish and the things that you are accomplishing, so that when you hand it off to somebody else, they're able to look at that document and understand what's going on as well. And that way they can take your idea and kind of push it forward rather than you having to re-educate them after they try to implement some of the aspects that you're working on. Brand design and design analysis. So with that, what you want to do is you want to go out and you want to look at different brands in the sphere of the app that you're developing. So you look for the industry standard website. So let's say I wanted to create I'll give you an example. So for example, I worked on this project and you guys are welcome to check out the site. It's still in beta. It's called humsum.org. It's a social media site for the environment. So I'll pull it up here. The desktop view. I'm running a lot of stuff on my computer, so things are slowing down a bit. So this is a desktop view of that app. And this app is essentially like a social media site. And what we did is we created a feed page, and you can see here's a whole bunch of different variants of the feed page of what we want it to look like. And when we went to think about designing this site, we went out to the big social media sites, and we went to Facebook, we went to Instagram, to LinkedIn, to Twitter. We went to innovative sites, ones that are on the bleeding edge of social media, to see how they're working with things, just so that we understood the entire landscape and kind of the design patterns that were already going on with those sites. So that's really critical at the beginning, because you're going to be talking with your client or your other designers or your team, and you need to be able to explain what the decisions are that you're making and how informed they are based off of what is going to be useful when it hits the market. Another huge advantage is a lot of these big companies spend a significant amount of money in the phase of getting analysis from the market. So let's say that I'm doing something for pet food. Going to research the major pet food companies and what they did with their website is likely informed by major marketing companies, major advertising companies, major focus groups on what they'd be looking for. And they literally have focus groups that are going to go through the app and use it and give feedback. So that's money that you're saving by just going to their site, seeing the decisions they made, and trying to understand why they made those decisions. You'll often start to see trends, and those trends are likely led by data from what they're doing for making that site and from their focus groups and things like that. And so you want to create your own trend analysis so that you could provide to your team, your client, and the people that are working for you, so that you become a critic or an expert on the topic of what you're trying to create. And it's not too hard. You spend a couple hours just researching those topics. And just by doing that and using them and integrating with them, you'll get a really good idea of what you want to create. So you want to check industry standard. You want to check the competing website. So if there's a competitor in the space, you definitely want to check out what they're doing. And you want to look at an emerging trend site or app. So at least looking at those. Then on here, I have extra credit. And actually, the really good designers will create some type of mood board or Pinterest board using Pinterest and just putting tons of stuff on there. And then go to their client, talk about what they're looking to do, show the Pinterest board and get feedback on what they're trying to accomplish. When we're trying to do it for ourselves without that huge infrastructure or bouncing it off of other people, you could still simulate those environments by creating those Pinterest boards and doing that research. It's absolutely critical when you show it to somebody else when you're trying to get a job or something along those lines that you can express what the seed of the idea was before you got started working on it. Then we look at branding and color details. So the Colorzilla Chrome extension, the eyedropper tool, which is the one I have here. There's tons of other tools too to check colors and stuff like that. And then looking for complementary colors. Go online, find resources for complementary colors, and make sure the palette that you're using is complementary rather than just kind of picking colors from the sky. There's lots of really cool ways to do that by taking pictures. Interesting enough, even taking pictures of nature with your own camera, nature is relatively complementary. I mean, it's super complementary. So you can even extract colors from that. And that's just some of my favorite complementary colors generators or places to look are ones where you're actually looking at images. So let's say I'm building a site for a hotel on the Mediterranean. I could look for pictures of boats near the Mediterranean and pick out and tease out the colors from that to incorporate into the design that I want to work on. And then the next part is font styles. What font is a really nice Chrome extension? You can download font type. You could research font sizes, and then you want to find complementary fonts that work together, like two complementary fonts that work together. Font Wolf is also a really good one. By the way, for complementary colors, I really like, just as an extension, this thing called Color Tab, which every time I create a new tab, it creates a new complementary color palette. And then you could click on this later and you could see all the complementary color palettes that are in kind of the API that they're feeding your browser with. And oftentimes I'll find one that I really like and I'll screenshot it and even sometimes make it my background and things like that. It's actually a really nice departure from checking out those news sites and stuff like that when you just open up a new tab and it's not yelling at you some type of messaging or trying to motivate you in some way, shape, or form. So it's just kind of nice to have in general as well. Okay, and then you could check out further online resources on that open list that I had mentioned before. So definitely check that out as well. Okay. Any questions about that so far? Or thoughts? Okay, so the next part of our lecture or our talk today, we'll start looking at different vector graphic editors. And the most popular are Adobe XD, Sketch, and Figma. Sketch used to be the leader by far. It was only available, and I think still is only available on Mac. It's also the only one where you have to pay for it. It's $50. Figma and Adobe XD are free. Adobe XD, you have to start paying more money when you want to share more files between individuals. If you're doing something super collaborative, I really like Figma for that. Adobe XD is pretty good for collaboration as well. And it's got a ton of tools that are available to you as well. I like Figma a lot. Actually, it's probably my favorite of them. I've been using Adobe XD a lot recently, which is nice. It's nice as well. But they all do the same thing. They're all vector based, work very similar to Adobe Illustrator. And but the advantage of them over something like Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop is they're built to be able to handle all of these artboards, all of these different designs that we have. When you start doing that with Illustrator or Photoshop, it's going to get laggy. It's going to start rendering your page. So it's really going to start grinding to a halt when you try to make changes. While these other tools are really flexible with moving things around and designing things and building things out. So that's the huge advantage of using these over Illustrator or Photoshop. Super similar to Illustrator, works very well with Illustrator if you want to create your assets in Illustrator and move them into one of these different platforms and things like that as well. When you're prototyping for a client, don't be afraid to use a template. Better said, use a template. And that's for sure. With design and with UX design, you don't have to be an artist. As a matter of fact, you get benefits from using these templates because they're already familiar to your audience. So if you deliver a look and feel that looks like an iOS app to a client, they're going to be super happy because they're going to be like, wow, you know how to build iOS apps that look just like an iOS app, rather than you trying to build something from scratch that has a totally new look, oftentimes doesn't land as well. So it's better to use something that's familiar and use one of those templates that's really well known, or find a template out there that's innovative and cool that you know will land well with your client. When you become a design rock star and know all the rules, then it's a great time to make your mark on the design industry at large. So if in that case, honestly, you might use templates for forever, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you could always tweak those templates to give it your own look or feel. There's so many decisions to be made when you're making these designs. So some of the just interactive components when you're thinking about how people are going to engage with your app, that's an opportunity for you to really show your creative skills and your understanding of design as well. So there's so many opportunities for you to kind of put your imprint on your design that you don't have to do it from just the first time that you essentially, start creating a pixel on your design. Here's some places that you could go for prototyping templates. I've also included in this tutorial some links to ones that we have downloaded that you could go to that are also free, but I just put them in a single repository, so it makes it easy for you guys to find it. High fidelity presentation. After you create your design, you'll move toward the demonstration phase. There are many ways to demonstrate your mockup, and there are built-in options with XD, Sketch, and Figma. Yeah, there used to be a lot of third-party options that you were using, but now you could really do it with Sketch, Figma, and XD. They're all kind of built in, and there's even like play buttons that you could just play your designs and stuff like that. So before there was a Marvel and Envision were really popular, but and now I just kind of recommend using that tool for what it is. There's tons of add-ons and other ways of going about this as well. What I've found by and large, just stick with the main softwares and platforms. They'll really do most of the stuff that you need to do. Research further and find examples of previous projects for inspiration here. And so at this link, it takes you to some of the other stuff here. So also please include, you could see here Figma Crush, all the free stock, all sorts of different templates and icon libraries and stuff like that. So please add to that, and then you could see some other ones that you could choose from if you so desire. Okay, cool. Next part. So 2 is quite empty because we're just getting started with it. As a matter of fact, I could put the templates, I could put a link to the templates on here while we're talking. And click here. And the video that we're currently doing, we will be putting the link to for XD. And we're going to be following the same guideline that we did in the Figma tutorial. So if you're curious about Figma and want to see the nuts and bolts how to design Figma, there's a video tutorial for that here. And then the resources for that project are also here. So yeah, okay, cool. And then afterwards, the assignment is essentially to document your research first of all, create that itemized list on your own before you start designing, even though you're going to be excited to try to play around. But definitely before you start planning the design that you're going to create, go through that process. It's a really good start. Come up with the idea you want to do for an app, and then go through the process of the research phase. And then after that, try to go through with the design phase. And with the design phase, we specifically want you to do 3 different versions, not multiple different artboards. You don't have to create many different pages, but maybe just a landing page for the desktop, the tablet, and the mobile view. It really gives a good idea of how to think about responsive design. So it's a really good exercise to think about how will that design change based off of a desktop to the tablet to the mobile. And they often change significantly. In the design world today, people like to often think mobile first as well. Think about how you're going to design for mobile and scale up. Although intuitively, we often think about how do we design for desktop and scale down. Either one works, whatever you prefer, but mobile gets the most hits. So make sure that you spend enough time working off of that mobile design that you're going to do. And then submit your final wireframe and designs as like a PDF. For your project that you're going to design, think about a topic that's going to be good for your portfolio. So oftentimes we recommend a real company, but not a big company. You're not making it for Coca-Cola, rather maybe like a boutique hotel, a boutique clothing shop, or something along those lines. So it looks realistic, but yet real at the same time. So you're not telling somebody, hey, I made this for class, which is often, although these days, if they see the talent and they know you can do it, they'll understand that you probably won't get, credit marked down in an interview. But it's nice to say, hey, I made this for this type of company. And you could actually give it to them as a prospectus and say, hey, I saw your design. I made this design. I thought I'd share it with you. And let me know if you have any thoughts or feedback on how I can improve my design style. And who knows, you might even get clients from that. The other thing that we really like to do is SEO for good, or doing something that's for some type of nonprofit or social group that where you're actually helping them out who often don't have tremendous resources. And that looks amazing on a portfolio as well, and might be usable for that group. So that's often a great project or a great project topic to choose. The other choices are a company you'd like to build or an app you'd like to develop. A meaningful topic that provokes conversation is good. The wireframe of your future portfolio could work, so on and so forth. So those are different options that you can choose between. Additional research, and this takes you back to that other link before. Okay, so let's check out XD and let's try to develop a pretty simple app. If you go over here, you'll see this library. It looks like I did it to the wrong one. Let's make sure they're in there. Great. Okay, and so when you go in here, you'll see that there's the iOS design templates, there's Adobe wireframes, and XD material. The Adobe wireframes are amazing. They're really, really cool. And so there's zip files that you can download and play with. And I'll show some of that stuff today, or where you could get it if you want to find it in another place. Okay, cool. Let me show you guys XD. So when I'm designing XD, it's free. So just go to download it from their website. And then I'm going to want to go to File New. This is kind of tricky, actually. So you go to File New, and it's like, where do I go to start? And nothing pops up. It's actually within here in this box here that you want to create. So let's say an iPhone 12 design I want to do. So I click on that, and then it opens up the canvas for that. And it opens it up to that iPhone 12 design. Now, you could see here that the width and height are set, but you can always make it bigger or smaller after it's made as well. So if you want to update the design, you can certainly do it based off of that. I'm going to be designing this. I'll show it to you guys. I'm going to be designing this. So it's called Gizmo. It's just a game app to purchase tech products that have to do with video games is the idea. So it's like an e-commerce game app, trying to make it look cool by making it kind of like a Game Boy. As far as the plus will take you to one side, or the stop will take you to another side. In the, kind of like, if you want it, you click no. If you want it, you push play. If you don't want it, you click the square button, the stop button. And then there's a basic kind of drawer over here. And then this would be an example of maybe like the tablet view and stuff like that. Of course, this is a pretty bare bones design. We expect you to do a little more than that, but nonetheless, this exercise of just creating these buttons and icons is often a pretty good starting point. If you also go to this and go to the Figma assets for the project, you could actually use those assets for this project. So you could just download them here. These are them, and you can go and download the assets for this project. And it downloads as a zip file. And now I have those assets on my desktop here, and I'm going to import them into my project. So I'll go over here, I'll go to File, I'll go to Import, I'll go to Desktop, and I'll grab those assets to put into my project. I could just highlight them all like this. And there we go. There we have the assets. Command minus is going to zoom out a bit, which I need to do to move this out of the way. Another thing that you can do is you can go up here to File, and where I found all those kits is right here, and you can see Get UI Kits. So you can get the iOS kits, the Material Design, Microsoft Windows, other ones as well from here. So you could click through there. Some of them you have to sign up for, and then you download them. And as long as they have the XD logo or the Figma logo, you download them, and then you can just, open them from your computer. Let's see, let me download. Here's the design template from iOS. And let me see if I already have. I think these are the Adobe ones that I can open. That one's taking a really long time. The Adobe ones are amazing. Look how detailed this is. It's crazy. My computer's not enjoying all these applications going crazy right now. It is computer intensive to just use this, but with streaming and stuff, it's even crazier. But you could see all this stuff in here. Now, all you have to do is change the colors on a lot of these to use them. So you could see you essentially have all the tools to build a website, an app, whatever you want to create. Here's a portfolio section. I mean, this is just humongous. And then if you go up here, then you have more narrowed down, you have radio buttons, you have arrows, all this stuff. And all you have to do is copy it and paste it over to the other side. So let's say I wanted to take this icon here. I have this icon. Oftentimes it's good over here. You'll see on the left-hand side, the thing that's stacked on top of each other. These are your layers. So you want to click on that and you can see it's already been made a component. Now we don't know what components are yet. So let's not worry about components, and we're just going to ungroup the component, and then you'll see that here's all the elements of that component here. So I'm going to take those elements and I'm going to group them, Command G, and we'll call that radio for radio button. And then I'm going to copy this. I'm going to bring it to my other project. Let's close this one. I think it opened this on top of the one that I was working on, if I'm correct. Oh, that opened up a brand new one. Let's see. Here we go. And I'll paste that here. And then if I zoom in, there's my radio button, right? Which is amazing. Could you make the radio button on your own? Absolutely, you totally could. But it's just so cool of all these different elements that they've created to like pixel perfection. I mean, clearly the people that worked on these are master designers. So it just gives you such a leg up to start working on something along those lines. All right, let's look a little bit about the different tools that we have here. So we have a square tool, we have a circle tool, we have a triangle tool. Let's play around with those. And then the arrow tool is going to be kind of my selector. So you can see that here, this is the detail of the radio button. And if I click the arrow back, you can see that these are my different artboards. So if I copy this artboard, Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V, it'll create multiple artboards. One thing to keep in mind, if you want to move these around, you have to drag them from the top name. If you try dragging them from other places, it doesn't work. So that's actually not my favorite feature about these, but just catch it at its top name, because you could also change the name. So if you have a very short name, it's sometimes hard to grab the top of it. So I'm going to delete this here, and we're going to start trying to design that game site or game app. So I'm going to make a square. And here's a rectangle right here, and I'm going to call the rectangle background. I highly recommend one of the most, honestly, this is the most underrated thing that I think is super important. It's going to save you so much time, is that you should name all of these elements that you're using. If you don't name them, what's going to happen is you're going to just have tons and tons of layers, and you're going to just be spending time looking for stuff. And if you plan to collaborate with somebody else and they're not named, that person's going to find it to be such a headache. So if you show somebody a project and it's all organized and named really well, whoever's collaborating with you is going to be so happy. So definitely get into that practice early on. And as long as you're doing it from the start, it actually makes it a lot easier. So my background is going to be black. So I'm going to click on this and this pops up, and I'm just going to do 0, 0, 0 for the background to be black. That's the border. And then here's the fill of the background. Then on top of that, I'm going to create a square here. If you wanted to keep its parameters, like it's to make it square, you hold shift. And so I'm going to make that square button like this and then kind of move it into place. What's great is this is really going to help you with the rulers and markers of understanding where you want to go, almost without having to use rulers, which is amazing. If you wanted to use rulers, you could go up to view and go to guides, and you could use rulers there. Are they already? Usually they're under guides. So maybe it's because I was, okay, we'll find them later. So we made the square here, and we're going to make the square that kind of peach color. So I'm actually going to go back to Figma. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a screenshot of these to help me so I don't have to go back and forth all the time. And then I'm going to just drag that screenshot into my design. And once again, if you were researching something, like let's say you wanted to create an app for, you know, a credit app, right? You can screenshot every one of those pages and you could bring them into your design. So you could look at those pages while you're making those decisions on what are going to be the pages that you want to create. I highly recommend that. So, and so for that, I'm going to go to my desktop, grab the screenshot and just drag it in. And so now I have that design here, which is going to help me in a lot of ways. So I'm going to zoom in, Command plus, and on this square here, I'm going to change the color of the border to pink, and I'm going to increase the size of the border to 10, and then I'm going to remove the fill color altogether. I could have made it black to match it. I think I'm going to make it 12 just to make it a bigger square. So I'm going to zoom in here, and now I have the square on my page. One thing that's different about vector programs and like Photoshop, honestly, the part that I don't love is how you want to create elements. You really have to get used to kind of this vector way of removing things and building things with a vector program. What I mean by that is, so I'm going to copy this element here, this rectangle, and we're going to call it the square button, or we could call it the stop button. And I could copy paste from here, or I could option drag, and it's going to drag two of these. And so now that I've dragged these, if I highlight both of these and you go over to this side, you can start seeing some of the ways that you can start modifying things. So this is called add. This is the add button. This is the subtract button. So you can create new forms by using these buttons. It's amazing how much stuff you can do with them. Not my forte, to be honest. It takes some special type of thinking and getting used to get good at it. And then here's the exclude one too. But there will be times when you just know, oh, I know how to do that. I just need to subtract or intersect or whatever that is. Like I could have made the square using one of these as well. But why not just make it with the square, right? Keep it simple. So now I have my square, and then the next one I want to use my play button. Now I have a play button that was included in the assets for Figma. So I'm going to import those assets. So I'm going to, I thought I did already, but let's do one more. Oh yeah, I did already. They're over here, right? Yeah. So they're just really small. So here are those assets right here. So I'm going to copy these and move these over by my project so that I see them. And I'm going to grab the play button as one of those assets. And when I click on the play button, it's right here, this outline play. You could turn it off or on to see it. Now, I could just make the play button, right? Let's make the play button really quickly. So I'm making a circle. I'm holding down shift to keep the parameters. Otherwise, it makes it an oval. This is kind of why this design is really useful for learning, just using basic shapes and designing stuff. And then for this, I'm going to once again do the border. I'm going to use the eyedropper tool here. I'm going to make the size 12, and then I'm going to remove the fill. And before I took the opacity of the fill down. This time I just unchecked fill. So there we go. Now I have my circle here, and now I need a triangle to be the interior of that. So over here we have that play button. Oh, I'm forgetting here. I need to have a pink background. I made it. I made the button should be black. The background should be pink. So let's turn this to black. That'll be a good layer lesson for us. I'm going to go create another square here. Like this. Zoom in, I might pick it up a little bit like that. And then I'm going to make this that peach pink color. The fill as well. And now I have that. And you know, since I'm working on it, I added that line too. So I'm just going to add a quick line across, holding down shift once again. And then I'm going to move the line down with the arrow. And we can see that line here. And then I'm going to make the color peach. And great. So now I have the line, I have the square, and we know that I have the ellipse behind it, but because it's lower in the layers over here, let me share just the design so that you guys see a closer look of it. So because the rectangle and the line are above the circle, we can't see the circle, right? So if I just move the circle up above like this, now my circle is on top of that. So I'm going to call that play circle. And then I have to create the play button, which is a triangle. So I'm going to make my triangle, holding down shift again, move that into place and rotate it like that. Make it a little smaller. And then let's make that black as well. And the border black. And I'll move this over. And there we go. That's the play button. It looks off. Like you start to get a sense of it. You could see that it's off on this side. So I need to fix the positioning of it. Before I do that, I'm going to combine these together as a group. This actually might be a time I might want to create a component because I know it's going to be forever kind of set in stone as that play button. And when you create the component, what happens is the original version of that component will be the parent component. And then the other ones will be the children. So if I change this component, then all the other ones will change and stuff like that, which is kind of a nice thing to do sometimes. In this case, I'm just going to create a group and I'm going to say play button like that. And now that they're grouped together, I'm going to move them over a little bit. And once again, this kind of helps me and it shows me where the settings are, where it should be. And it oftentimes will also show me, oh, it's towards the bottom of that square as well, which is nice. So now I have the settings for that. And then I'm going to use the font tool and I'm going to call it Gizmo. Like this. I'm going to go over here and fonts work the same everywhere for the most part. And I'll go choose some font. Maybe I'll choose Open Sans. And then I'm going to make the font like 80, like that. There we go. And I'm going to make the fill the peach color. Okay, so now I have Gizmo here, and then I'm going to go grab another font here and make it really small, maybe like 12. Let's do maybe 18. And then here, I forgot what my title is. The Place for Games or something, I think, is the title. the style of gaming. So I'm going to make that 20 and then do the style of gaming. Like that. And then this is lowercase. And let's make that 20. Okay. Voila. So now we have Gizmo, we have the style of gaming, and we have our first screen of our app for the most part. And we could kind of see how we're going to get to these other things. We've already imported the image of our phone, and I could kind of quickly go through that since we're kind of running out of time. So I'll do another. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to my pasteboard, and now right here I have iPhone. I'm going to call that the title screen, like that. And we have Josh coming in right now, so I'll let him join us and give his thoughts while we finish up with this. Hello, sir. So we're finishing up with UX design. So if you have any thoughts while we're doing this, feel free to chime in. Actually, we should definitely have Josh do a presentation on his designs, because Josh has these awesome music interfaces that we should totally look at sometime. So, so we're making this simple app called Gizmo, which is a e-commerce game app, and we made it kind of look like a Game Boy. For the concept of it. So, all right. So the next part of the app is we're going to do this background. And I'm just going to quickly do the second screen just so you guys get the idea. And I'll just do a background. I think I already have the hamburger bar, but you could actually do the lines yourself, just as little lines. But I think I have them right here already. You could see here the outline of these lines. So we'll try to kind of go through those really quickly. So I have my iPhone. This is my next screen, and we'll call that the display screen. So now we have the title screen and the display screen. And then I'm going to click into that display screen to make sure that the changes I'm making are there. And for that, I'll just do another square. Another option would have been I should have just copy and pasted the stuff from the one before, but we'll just go quickly here. So I have the square here, and the background of this looks like it's going to be that pink color. So let's go grab that. Let me grab the arrow tool. And so now we have that background of the pink color, and then we'll just make the same for the border background. And then for this, what we're going to do is we're going to take these two, the stop button and the play button here, and let's just copy those and drag them over and paste them here. Looks like I might have lost it on here. So I think it just got caught behind there. Okay, so we have that. So we have the stop and play button. What I actually want to do is I want to put the rectangles for those together as well. That'll actually help me a lot with transitioning them over. So I'm going to put the rectangle inside the play button folder, and then I'll move this group up like that. And then here's my stop button, which is just a square, and I'm going to group that together as well. We'll call that stop. And then if I really want to, I can group all these together as the controls. So that includes the line. And then I'll just copy this and then go back to this display, zoom in on that, delete the ones from before, and there we go. So looks like I have to fix the background here. So something like that, right? And so I think this one we wanted to make it smaller. So let's go over to the stop button, the background. I'm going to make this lower. Oh, that was the one that I was dragging around. Okay, so making this lower like this, and then grab that button and move it down, and then move this one down as well. When you try to do it fast, it's these type of things happen. And now I'll go to the play button. Actually, that rectangle is getting in the way to move the play button around, but now I'm moving that play button down. And okay, we're almost there. And where's that line that we have? Okay, here's the line. So we want to make the line black this time. So I'm going to click on the line and then I'm going to make it black. You guys are getting the idea. That's why this is a really good kind of opening exercise. And I'm going to grab this over here, make it smaller, bring it over here. And then I'll zoom in. And if I click on this, I can crop it. So I believe this is a crop tool here. I guess not. I don't really crop stuff very often here, so I don't know which one's the crop tool. And things are going crazy because Zoom, people are coming into Zoom and stuff. So where do we go to the crop tool? I'm forgetting off the bat. I'll send an update of where you could find the crop tool, but probably a good idea to crop it out before you put it in here altogether. But nonetheless, so I'll move this up. And really, like an image like this usually ends up becoming more of just demo content, because the content will, if you're making like a web app or a mobile phone, the content is often going to be generated by user input altogether. So keep that in mind as well. So so we have that, and then we would put in the other icons and things like that to design our page. So that's the idea of how we go about creating this gizmo thing. And if you go to the Figma tutorial that we have before, you could watch it come all the way to fruition. So does anybody have any questions about the design? Okay, then, well, everybody have a great week, and looking forward to seeing what you guys design. Feel free to send your messages over Discord as well. And I can hang back for a minute.